Would you dare to study in a haunted school? Across the UK, creepy classrooms hide terrifying secrets, ghostly nuns, weeping children, and shadowy figures that vanish before your eyes. These aren't just stories. Real students and teachers have seen them. From a heartbroken red lady stalking playgrounds to a murdered monk lurking in corridors, these schools are crawling with the unexplained. What if the empty desk next to you isn't really empty? Stick around as we uncover the 10 most haunted schools in Britain where the scariest lessons aren't in any textbook. Help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers, because every new sub means one less lonely ghost in these haunted halls. Hit that button and join the spooky squad. 1. Pluckley Primary School. Kent. Pluckley Primary School in Kent is known as one of the most haunted schools in the UK, mainly because of its famous ghost, the Red Lady. This spirit is said to be the ghost of a woman who died tragically long ago. According to local stories, she was heartbroken after losing her child and took her own life near the school. Since then, her ghost has been seen wandering the playground and nearby fields, dressed in a flowing red gown. Many children and teachers over the years have reported seeing her, especially at dusk when the light fades. Some say she appears sad, while others claim she seems angry, as if still searching for her lost child. The school itself is located in Pluckley, a village famous for being the most haunted village in England, with over a dozen reported ghosts. This makes the Red Lady's presence even more chilling. Visitors and paranormal investigators have recorded strange cold spots and unexplained shadows near the school. Some people have even heard faint crying or whispering when no one else is around. The ghost has become such a well-known legend that even former students talk about feeling watched or sensing a strange presence during their time at the school. One of the creepiest stories involves a group of children playing outside during break time. A few of them claimed to see a woman in red standing near the trees, staring at them before suddenly vanishing. When they told their teachers, some adults admitted they had seen her too, but didn't want to scare the children. Even today, the Red Lady's ghost remains a mystery. No one knows for sure why she haunts the school, but her story continues to send shivers down the spines of those who visit or study there. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the tales of the Red Lady and other spirits in Pluckley make this school one of the most eerie places in Britain. The real-life sightings and unexplained events keep the legend alive, proving that some mysteries may never be solved. To Berford School. Oxfordshire. Berford School in Oxfordshire is one of the oldest and most haunted schools in England, with a history stretching back over 450 years. The school is built on land that was once part of an ancient priory, and many believe this is why restless spirits still linger there. The most famous ghost is a cavalier from the English Civil War, dressed in his 17th century uniform. Students and teachers have reported seeing him walking through the school's old corridors, especially near the library and the historic stone staircase. Some say he appears lost, as if still searching for something or someone from his past. Others claim to hear the faint sound of boots clicking on the floors when no one is there. Another ghost often seen at Berford School is the spirit of a young girl, believed to have been a student long ago. She is usually spotted in the oldest part of the building, wearing an old-fashioned dress. Witnesses say she seems sad, sometimes even crying silently before disappearing into the walls. Some believe she might have died tragically while attending the school, though no records confirm exactly who she was. There are also stories of strange cold drafts, doors slamming on their own, and lights flickering for no reason or signs that the school may still be home to more than just living. Students One of the most chilling experiences happened to a group of students staying late for a drama rehearsal. They claimed to see the shadowy figure of the Cavalier standing at the end of a hallway, watching them before vanishing into thin air. Another time, a teacher, working alone late at night, heard the sound of a girl sobbing, but when they searched, no one was there. These stories have been passed down for generations, and even today, students talk about feeling an eerie presence in certain parts of the school. Whether it's the ghost of the lost Cavalier or the sad little girl, Berford School's haunted history makes it one of the most spine-tingling places in the UK. 3. The King's School. Chester. The King's School in Chester is one of the oldest schools in England, with a history going back over 1,000 years. It was originally part of Chester Cathedral, and its ancient buildings are said to be haunted by the ghost of a murdered monk. According to legend, the monk was killed in a violent attack many centuries ago, and his spirit has never left the school grounds. Students and teachers over the years have reported seeing a shadowy figure in dark robes walking through the corridors, especially near the old cloisters and the chapel. Some say they've heard whispered prayers or the sound of footsteps following them when no one is there, as if the monk is still watching over the school. One of the most famous ghost stories from the King's School involves a former student who claimed to have seen the monk's face staring at him through a window late at night. The boy was so frightened that he refused to stay in the building after dark. Others have reported sudden drops in temperature and strange breezes in closed-off rooms, even when all the windows and doors are shut. Some believe the monk's ghost is tied to the school's religious past and that he may be lingering because of unfinished business, perhaps seeking justice for his murder or protecting the place he once called home. Another eerie tale comes from a school caretaker who worked there for many years. He often spoke about hearing faint chanting or the sound of someone walking behind him, only to turn around and find the hallway empty. On one occasion, he even claimed to have seen a ghostly figure kneeling in prayer before it vanished into the walls. These sightings and experiences have made the King's School a hotspot for ghost hunters and paranormal investigators, many of whom believe the building holds onto its past in more ways than one. Whether the monk's ghost is real or just a story passed down through generations, the chilling tales continue to haunt the school and those who study there. For Bergate School. Hampshire. Bergate School in Hampshire has earned a reputation as one of Britain's most haunted schools due to persistent reports of poltergeist activity and ghostly sightings. The school occupies buildings with a long history, including parts that date back centuries, and many believe this ancient energy fuels the paranormal occurrences. The most disturbing reports involve objects moving on their own, books flying off shelves, doors slamming violently when no one is near them, and unexplained knocking sounds coming from empty classrooms. Several teachers have reported seeing shadowy figures darting across corridors after hours, while cleaning staff have spoken of an overwhelming feeling of being watched in certain areas of the school, particularly around the old staircases and basement areas. One of the most compelling accounts came from a group of students staying late for a music rehearsal in the school hall. They all witnessed a piano playing by itself, the keys visibly depressing as if invisible hands were playing them, yet producing no actual sound. When they tried to record the phenomenon on their phones, the devices mysteriously malfunctioned. Another well-documented incident involved a science teacher who arrived early one morning to find every chair in his classroom stacked in a perfect pyramid shape, something that would have taken several people hours to accomplish, yet happened overnight in a locked room. The school's caretaker has reported tools going missing only to reappear days later in strange locations, and hearing disembodied whispers coming from the boiler room. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Bergate's hauntings is that the activity seems to follow certain individuals home. Multiple staff members have reported continuing disturbances in their houses after encountering phenomena at school, including one teacher whose household items rearranged themselves overnight in patterns mimicking the classroom incidents. Paranormal. Investigators who visited the school recorded unexplained temperature drops and electronic voice phenomena, including a child's voice clearly saying "help me" in an empty corridor. While some skeptics suggest the old building's creaks and drafts explain some occurrences, the sheer volume of consistent reports from reliable witnesses over decades suggests Bergate School may truly be home to something beyond normal understanding. The school has learned to live with its ghostly residents, with many staff treating the phenomena as just another quirk of working in a building so steeped in history. 5 St. James School, London. St. James School in London has long been associated with ghostly sightings of its former headmaster, whose spirit is said to still walk the halls decades after his death. The most common reports describe a tall man in old-fashioned teaching robes appearing suddenly in doorways or at the end of corridors before vanishing into thin air. Both students and staff have reported feeling an unusual coldness when passing through certain areas of the school, particularly near the headmaster's old office, which is now used as a storage room. Many believe this temperature drop signals the ghost's presence. Cleaners working after hours have heard the distinct sound of footsteps pacing in empty classrooms above them, matching the rhythm of someone walking back and forth while deep in thought. Exactly how former pupils remembered the headmaster behaving when he was alive. One particularly eerie incident involved a group of Year 7 students who stayed late for a drama club meeting. They all saw the figure of a man watching them from the balcony of the school hall, his face clearly visible in the dim lighting. When their teacher went to investigate, there was nobody there, and the balcony door was locked from the inside. Another well-documented account comes from a school secretary who was working alone one evening. She heard the unmistakable sound of the old-fashioned school bell ringing in the empty corridor. The same bell the former headmaster used to carry with him when he patrolled the school during his lifetime. When she went to look, the modern electronic bell system was switched off, and there was no physical bell to be found anywhere in the building. What makes these sightings particularly chilling is how consistent the descriptions are across different generations of witnesses. Former students who attended the school in the 1970s describe seeing the same ghostly figure that current pupils report today. Some paranormal investigators believe the headmaster's spirit remains tied to the school because of his deep dedication to the institution during his life. Others suggest he might be watching over particular students, as several children have reported feeling an invisible hand on their shoulder when they were upset or in trouble. While the school officially dismisses the ghost stories as folklore, many teachers privately admit they've experienced things they can't explain, and there's an unspoken rule among staff never to work alone in the building after dark. The legend of the headmaster's ghost has become such an established part of school life that even skeptical newcomers often change their minds after spending time in the older parts of the building, where the air sometimes feels heavier and the shadows seem to move just beyond your field of vision. 6. Barrow Hills School. Surrey. Barrow Hills School in Surrey is famous for its ghostly nun who has been spotted wandering near the school's chapel for decades. The private Catholic school stands on land that was once part of a convent, and many believe the nun spirit never left. Students and teachers describe seeing a pale woman in old-fashioned nun's robes walking slowly along the chapel corridors before disappearing through walls. Some witnesses report feeling a sudden cold breeze when she appears, while others say they've smelled an unexpected scent of candle wax in empty rooms. The most common sightings happen at dusk, when shadows grow long in the school's historic buildings. Many believe she's the spirit of a nun who died tragically when the convent still stood on these grounds, though no one knows her exact story. One of the most chilling encounters happened to a group of boarding students who woke in the night to see the ghostly nun standing at the foot of their beds. They all described the same thing: a silent figure with her head bowed, as if in prayer, glowing faintly in the dark room before fading away. When they told their teachers the next morning, they learned that generations of students had reported the exact same experience. Another well-known story involves a school photographer who captured an unexplained figure in nun's clothing standing in the background of a class picture. When he developed the photo, the face was blurred, but the traditional wimple and robes were clearly visible, even though no one dressed like that had been present during the shoot. The photo was shown to many staff members, who all agreed it matched descriptions of the ghostly nun. The school's chapel seems to be the center of the paranormal activity. Several priests have reported hearing whispered prayers coming from empty pews, and organ music playing when no one is at the instrument. One religion teacher claimed to have seen prayer books moving by themselves during a quiet moment in the chapel. While some dismiss these stories as imagination, the sheer number of similar reports from different people over many years makes it hard to ignore. Even visitors who know nothing about the ghost stories often report feeling uneasy near certain areas of the chapel. The school has embraced its haunted reputation in a light-hearted way, with students joking about Sister Ghost watching over them. But many admit there's something genuinely unsettling about being alone in the chapel after dark. When the air grows still and the old wooden floors creak with footsteps that have no visible source. 7. St. Michael's Preparatory School, Wales. Michael's Preparatory School in Wales is known for its haunting by a mysterious woman in white who appears throughout the school grounds. The private Catholic school, housed in a grand old mansion, has multiple reports of a pale female figure gliding through corridors and appearing near windows, especially around the original 19th century parts of the building. Students describe seeing her as a blurry shape that disappears when approached, often leaving behind a faint floral scent. Many believe she might be connected to the land's history before the school was built, possibly a former resident of the mansion who died tragically. The most common sightings occur near the grand staircase and the old dormitories, where several children have woken to find a woman sitting at the foot of their beds, only to vanish when they rub their eyes. One particularly frightening incident involved a night watchman who saw the woman in white standing on the upper balcony, her dress blowing as if in wind despite the still night air. When he called out, she turned to face him with empty eyes before stepping backwards through a solid wall. Another account comes from a music teacher who heard a woman singing a lullaby in an empty classroom late one evening. When she investigated, the singing stopped, but a piano in the room continued to play a few notes by itself. Several staff members have reported finding doors mysteriously locked from the inside when no one was there, then unlocking themselves moments later. The school's maintenance workers have grown used to fixing flickering lights and malfunctioning electrical equipment in areas where the woman has been sighted, joking that the ghost doesn't like modern technology. What makes these sightings especially eerie is how they often precede significant events at the school. Multiple teachers have reported seeing the woman in white the night before a student fell seriously ill or when accidents were about to happen. Some believe she acts as a warning spirit, while others think she's simply replaying moments from her own tragic past. The school takes these reports seriously enough that they've had the building blessed multiple times, though the sightings continue. Former students often return years later to share their own ghost stories, with many describing the same details: the pale dress, the sudden cold spots, and the overwhelming feeling of sadness that accompanies her appearances. While no one has ever felt threatened by the presence, there's an unspoken rule among students not to wander the old halls alone after dark. When the woman in white is said to walk most frequently, her silent footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. 08 St Donats Castle, Atlantic College, Wales. St Donats Castle, home to Atlantic College in Wales, is considered one of the most haunted places in Britain, with its most famous ghost being Lady Stradling. The castle dates back to the 12th century, and Lady Stradling is said to have lived there during the 16th century. According to legend, she died heartbroken after her lover was lost at sea, and her spirit has never left the castle walls. Students and staff report seeing her ghostly figure wandering the long corridors, dressed in an old-fashioned gown, often near the castle's dramatic cliffside location overlooking the sea. Many have heard the sound of a woman sobbing coming from empty rooms, particularly during stormy nights when the wind howls through the ancient stone walls. Some believe she appears most often to lonely students, as if understanding their feelings of isolation in the imposing castle school. One of the most well-documented encounters happened to a group of international students studying late in the castle's library. They all saw a pale woman walking slowly past the bookshelves before disappearing through a solid wall. When they reported it to staff the next day, they were shown a portrait of Lady Stradling, the same woman they had seen. Another chilling account comes from a teacher who woke to find a ghostly figure standing at the foot of their bed in one of the castle's residential towers. The figure sighed deeply before dissolving into the morning mist coming through the window. The castle's night security team have grown accustomed to dealing with the supernatural, regularly investigating alarms triggered in empty parts of the building, only to find nothing but a sudden drop in temperature and the faint scent of roses, said to be Lady Stradling's favorite flower when she was alive. The ghostly activity isn't limited to visual sightings. Many have reported hearing the rustle of silk dresses in vacant corridors and the sound of harp music coming from the Great Hall when it's empty. Some students claim to have felt an invisible hand brush their hair when they were upset or homesick, as if offering comfort. The school has a surprisingly open attitude about its resident ghost, with staff acknowledging that after 600 years, Lady Stradling has become part of the castle's fabric. New students are often told the legend during their orientation, and many leave flowers near her portrait as a sign of respect, while some dismiss the stories as imagination fueled by the castle's dramatic atmosphere. The consistency of reports across decades from different students, teachers, and visitors suggests St Donats Castle truly is home to something beyond normal explanation. Whether Lady Stradling's spirit remains by choice or is trapped by unfinished business, her presence adds an unforgettable dimension to education at one of Britain's most spectacularly haunted schools. 9. The Old Grammar School, Holtha, Old Grammar School in Hull has long been shrouded in ghostly rumours, with its most famous spectre being a shadowy figure seen lurking in the attic space. Built in 1583, this historic building served as a school for centuries before becoming part of Hull's museum complex. Staff and visitors consistently report seeing a dark shape moving between the attic beams, sometimes peering down through the small windows at people below. Many describe an overwhelming feeling of being watched whenever they're alone in the upper floors, followed by unexplained banging noises coming from the sealed-off attic space. Maintenance workers refuse to go up there after dark, claiming their tools often go missing or their flashlights mysteriously die when attempting repairs in the ancient space. Some believe the ghost might be connected to the building's long history as a school, possibly a former teacher or student who met a tragic end in the building. One particularly chilling incident involved a group of university students researching local history who were allowed to examine some old documents stored on the top floor. They all reported hearing footsteps moving above them in the attic, despite staff confirming no one had access to that area. When one brave student climbed a ladder to peek through the attic hatch, they saw a pair of eyes reflecting in their flashlight beam before the hatch suddenly slammed shut on its own. Another well-documented account comes from a night security guard who saw the shadowy figure standing at an attic window from the street below. When he rushed inside to investigate, he found the attic door locked from the inside with no possible way anyone could have entered or exited. Paranormal investigators who examined the building recorded unexplained temperature drops and electronic voice phenomena in the attic, including what sounded like children whispering and the scratch of chalk on slate, eerie reminders of the building's past as a school. What makes these sightings especially disturbing is how they seem connected to the building's original purpose. Visitors often report hearing the faint sound of children reciting lessons or the crack of a ruler hitting a desk when no one else is around. Some sensitive individuals claim to feel sudden sadness or anxiety when touching the old wooden desks still preserved in the building. The local museum staff have learned to live with their ghostly resident, joking that the old schoolmaster still keeps watch over his domain. While they don't officially promote the ghost stories, they acknowledge that something unusual lingers in the attic space. Over the years, so many people have reported similar experiences that it's become impossible to dismiss them all as imagination or coincidence. Whether the shadowy figure represents a former teacher maintaining discipline beyond the grave, or a troubled soul unable to leave the school they once knew, the old grammar school remains one of Hull's most authentically haunted locations, where the past seems to echo just a little too loudly through its ancient halls. 10 Royal High School. Edinburgh Royal High School in Edinburgh is considered one of Scotland's most haunted schools, with its most famous ghost being the spirit of a student who died tragically centuries ago. The school, founded in 1128, is housed in a dramatic Gothic building that seems to hold onto its dark past. Students and teachers have reported hearing the sound of a boy crying in empty corridors, particularly near the old locker rooms and basement areas. Many describe it as heartbreaking sobbing that suddenly stops when approached, leaving behind an eerie silence. The most common sightings occur around midnight, when security guards have reported seeing a pale young man in old-fashioned school uniform wandering the halls before vanishing near a particular stone wall. Local legend says this was where the student died after being accidentally locked in the building overnight during freezing winter weather centuries ago. One particularly disturbing incident involved a group of drama students rehearsing late at night. They all heard the sound of someone running down the corridor outside, followed by desperate banging on the door and a young voice pleading, "Let me out." When they opened the door, the hallway was completely empty. Another well-documented account comes from a school janitor who found all the lockers in one corridor mysteriously open every morning for a week, despite locking them securely each night. On the final night, he stayed to watch and claimed to see the locker doors slowly opening one by one, as if an invisible force was searching for something. The school's library also has reports of books flying off shelves, particularly old history. Volumes about the school itself. Several students have reported feeling an icy cold hand grab their wrist when alone in certain parts of the building, especially near the original 12th century sections where the stone walls seem to hold centuries of memories. What makes these hauntings especially chilling is how they seem connected to the school's ancient traditions. The crying is often heard around the time of year when historical records indicate the student died. Some believe the ghost becomes more active during exam periods, as if sharing the student's stress. The school takes these stories seriously, enough that they've had multiple paranormal investigations, with recordings capturing unexplained whispers and temperature drops. While staff don't openly discuss the hauntings, there's an unspoken understanding among students about which corridors to avoid after dark. Former pupils often return years later to share their own ghostly experiences, with many describing the same details: the sound of running footsteps, the feeling of being watched in empty classrooms, and that unforgettable sound of a child's desperate crying that seems to come from the walls themselves. Whether the ghost is truly a trapped student or simply the echo of some long-ago tragedy, Royal High School's haunted reputation continues to send shivers down the spines of those who walk its historic halls after dark.